Welcome to the May 7th, 2019 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince. Oh, sorry. This is OldManStompy.
And Fakafon.
Fucked it up already. So
I guess now we know which one of us is filling in for Lotus. And the other
I can imagine him listening to this and editing and being like, what? I'm not on the show.
Wait a minute.
Wait, was I? Where's my track?
That don't sound like that.
My track, it's gone!
It's true. We've been in his recording studio. That is what he does all the time.
I'm in my pajamas. What do I do?
I mean, that's normal.
Just always.
But anyway, so yeah, we have another great episode here with Fakafon. You haven't been on in about a month or so, so it was good to have you back on. Have an occasion to have you back on.
Yeah, it's always fun to be here.
Great. You don't have to lie. You can be candid, but
they don't pay me for this.
It's always a thing that I do for 3 hours or so, and then I move on with my life.
Actually, this venture has cost me negative has paid me negative dollars. Yeah, I've put in quite a bit of time and effort and money into the podcast. So and so is everybody else. I mean, everybody else has bought equipment in order to do this, pretty much. So it's not easy.
And we do it for fun. So.
Yeah. I mean, SoundCloud hosting is $15 a month. It doesn't sound like a lot, but every single month it adds up. We have a website that I have to pay hosting for that nobody goes to, that we don't work on.
Uh-oh.
This reminds me of the Final Fantasy XIV subscription that I have but don't play.
So and
my wife is shaking her head from across the table.
Yeah, we should move on to our topics here. One of the major things going on right now is this is a big Kotaku thing, so of course it's like, of course sensationalized or whatever, but also a very important topic that I'm glad that they're bringing light to. So there was a massive walkout at Riot Games, the makers of League of Legends, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, League of Legends. So that's not really our territory, but there have been many complaints about sexism in the workplace and general behavior towards women in general in climbing the ladder there, and also arbitration. Forced arbitration when there is an issue, which is ridiculous. So over 150 people walked out in protest today, which is a big deal. That's a lot of people.
Holy shit! What does that mean? Are they striking, or they're literally quitting the company?
No, they're not. They're not quitting the company, but they're letting their voices be heard in a public manner. Okay. It's not necessarily a strike. I don't think it's a permanent thing, but they left their post during the day.
Gotcha.
So there were lots of people that were directly affected by these things, and also many people that are doing it in solidarity. There are, of course, people that Kotaku has talked to that are fine with the way that Riot Games has decided to react to the bad press, which is they have made movement to try to fix their problems, or at least they seem to. So that's a good thing. At least voices are being heard and something's being done about it.
Yeah.
But of course, I always kind of hate this kind of thing because it's always kind of like a politician apologizing. They're not doing it because it's the right thing to do. They're doing it because of public backlash. And even though it is the right thing to do to fix it, it just sucks that they have to use social leverage in order to get what they want, not to make them realize, hey, we were being crappy, maybe we should have done something about it. And it just kind of stinks, they weren't listening to their employees to begin with, and they had to go to news outlets in order to voice their opinion, and also social media, and now of course this is a a physical manifestation of that that kind of culture. So I hope that this doesn't start a culture war within the company, and they just decide to listen to people and change. But I don't know. I always, with big companies like this, I always wonder whether there's going to be retaliation for this kind of thing, especially for newer employees,
Yeah.
and people that are on the precipice of something, on the precipice of being, hired for a new position or something like that within the company. Of course, I'm sure most people wouldn't even have the wherewithal to participate in something like this if they knew something was at stake. But you can always hope that they have the bravery to fight for what they believe in. It's a tough thing, and I really feel for the people in this situation.
Man, I'm speechless. I really don't know what to add to this.
I mean, know more or less what my opinion will be on this matter. So just to clarify one situation, when we say forced arbitration, we mean that when employees sign their contract, within Riot in this case, what they say is that if they have the dispute with the company, they are not allowed to take it to court. If they take it to court, the lawsuit will be immediately thrown out because they signed away that right in the contract. They have to go to arbitration for any dispute, which usually tends to be to an arbitrator who is not a seated judge. More likely, it's going to be a business arbitrator that tends to, or people believe tends to be more biased towards big business, and it tends to be very difficult for workers to get any concessions in forced arbitration. That's part of why this is so dangerous. It sounds, although these tend to be civil matters and not criminal matters, so it doesn't necessarily result in a denial of due process, but it does feel like you're signing away your civil rights, when you're saying that you can't go to a judge if you have a dispute with your company. That's it's a tough, and it's becoming more and more common as big business becomes more and more powerful, especially in the United States and also in like large multinational corporations, especially like a lot of video game companies that have fingers in a lot of pots in Europe and in America, in Asia. It becomes harder and harder to find a job with congenial working conditions. So we've seen walkouts of this type in a lot of industries, especially lately, get a lot of attention in America. We saw in the fall a big strike, a walkout by the I think it was the flight attendants union, that more or less was responsible for ending the most recent budget negotiations in the U.S. We had a big strike in Arizona from the teachers union, so it was just a matter of time before it hit the entertainment industry. Before we had a big blow up. And I guess I don't know what the end game is here because, we've talked a lot about how the economy of the video game industry, like video games are so devalued, right? Like the market is flooded with games. It's so hard to spend so much money to make a game, and the margins are so small that I think the industry has to shrink, which means that people are going to lose their jobs. It's kind of inevitable, I think, and I hope that the big companies that can absorb like a little bit of a hit, like Riot, come out of this treating their employees better. And the only way that will happen is if the employees get together, not necessarily unionize, because it's difficult to unionize without being blacklisted in a lot of situations. But I hope that workers can stand together, and I hope that they support each other. I don't really care that much about the company executives. They're all multimillionaires, and they'll go to some other venture if their game company fails. But
100%. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things is once you become a CEO, you're always valid to be a CEO, even if you're a terrible one.
It's like a professional sports coaches. There's like a there's a small club that just keeps getting hired over and over again for the same jobs, even if they're terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that about politicians as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we could get into that all day long. But there have been people in seats for a very long time for no good reason, and if they get voted out, they'll go into some other public service role. So you won't get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things. It's like a marketing thing, I guess. You know their names, so therefore they're valid.
Yeah.
But it's also a super shitty thing. It's a lot of gatekeeping in this kind of thing. I also want to add that women in particular feel this kind of thing especially. The forced arbitration, it is really bad for all workers, but especially women, because they are more likely to be sexually harassed and also, discriminated upon because of their gender, and other minorities as well, and minorities as well, I might add. So, this is an important thing that I think people should take notice of.
So we saw this happen in a somewhat more high-profile case about 3 years ago with Uber, right? There was a female employee who wrote an article stating that there was a culture similar to what we had at Riot Games. And it blew up on social media, and I believe the CEO of Uber wound up temporarily stepping down from the board as a result of it. I don't think this is too different here. I think you're completely correct. I mean, I don't know how much I have to say on this matter because we're like three guys sitting here talking about feminism in the workplace, you know?
Yeah.
Well, at least like we could say what side we're on. And our intentions are good, even if we don't have the perspective necessarily. I want to put it that way. Of course, there are things that maybe I might say that need to be corrected, but I'm more than willing to do so.
I will say that, like, taking every accusation seriously is not the same as assuming every accusation is 100% the truth and correct. But it is very important to that person, and that first one is something that we still even fail to do, and is a necessary first step before we even decide on so-called truthiness.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to keep in mind the first job of an HR department is to defend the bottom line of the company. That's why they're there. They're not there. They're put there and advertised internally as a means for the employees to have their voices heard and as a place they could go to, but honestly, they are not there for that. They are there to make sure that litigation doesn't happen.
And I think that's why this seems so empty to you, is because the problems in company culture tend to come from the top. So, if the people at the top say the right words, that's great, but there's no guarantee that things won't revert back to the way they were, without a lot of conscious effort from someone else coming in from the outside. There's no guarantee. That's basically what privilege means, that you always have the ability to revert to your past behavior if you so choose, and there's not very much penalty for it, which is kind of what we're seeing here, up until this walkout.
And not only that, but people like this tend to come up with, even if they come up with the things that people are asking for, they'll come up with an alternative to screw them over in a different way. And that might not get the press because people are exhausted about it. Right. That's a thing that happens. I mean, like, if we kept hearing about this Riot thing 3 years later and we heard about it every single month, people would stop caring. And that sucks because it's a real problem. But that's the reality of it, and it sucks. It's just one of those things. Our fans know how I feel on these kinds of things, and I won't go on too much longer, but I do want to, in earnestness, explain, my perspective on these things, and I don't think I'm too far off. I'm a worker. I want to be on side of the workers, so that's. My parents were union people. All growing up, my parents are teachers. I was a teacher at one point, so I'm on that side. I just am.
Jeez, it almost makes me glad I'm unemployed.
You should unionize to get better wages.
Yeah, sure.
But any final thoughts on that? I know I dominated that.
No, I got nothing to add, honestly.
I don't play League of Legends. I'm not going to start now.
Me either.
If the 150 employees started their own like open source MOBA, as part of a protest, then I might play that just for fun. But it's not really my genre.
Yeah, me
neither.
Me as well.
I think I played one MOBA. Like, it was the thing that led to League of Legends, what they did with Warcraft 3.
Dota.
Yeah,
the original
Dota.
Dota. Yeah.
And that's pretty much the only one I ever really played, like over like an hour, let's say. And yeah, I don't like them.
Is Pokemon Go a MOBA?
It's a MOBA game.
I just said that to annoy somebody who's listening and likes MOBAs. I don't know who you are. Please respond in the comments with likes and thumbs up and 5-star reviews on iTunes.
They should make
Click that
Pokemon
bell.
Goba.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
It's a MOBA. It's a Goba MOBA. Anyway, you know where I stand on funny phrases. Anyway, so here's an important thing that fans fought for and got.
Oh yeah. Speaking of tremendously overworked employees.
Jesus, when you're stuck in a sandwich,
So the Sonic movie was revealed in a teaser trailer with Jim Carrey and a very original-looking Sonic the Hedgehog.
Mm-hmm.
As our resident furry expert, Fakafon, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I'm the resident furry expert. Jesus.
You're more fun
You know
than
what I have to
am.
say? It doesn't matter what design they're gonna come up with. People are just gonna draw Sonic anyway, the way they want to. So.
Sure. Well, I can't believe how they drew him. Just saying, I've seen lots of DVR art that I didn't want to see, but looks a lot better than this.
Oh, come now. You know you wanted to see them.
I was a big Sonic fan back in the day. I was a Princess Sally Acorn fan. No, I mean, I'm into vests and chipmunks, but and boots.
So I mean, like the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie had John Waters and made a Pink Flamingos reference, so I think they know the target audience that they're aiming for.
You know, fans of Gadget from Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Oh boy, you can find a lot of good pictures.
And Robin Hood and Maid Marian from Disney.
You're dating yourself quite a lot too, because like nobody born after like 1990 will have any idea what you're talking about.
No, furries do. That movie
Oh,
in particular.
the animated Robin Hood. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking of like.
Right.
Not Kevin Costner. Nobody's into.
Yeah,
that.
I was like, that's not right.
But even then, I thought it was more of a Zootopia thing now. Like
Nowadays, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so
What were you talking about?
Sonic.
Yeah. And his
he
like
looked very weird and like a furry man in pajamas.
I mean, people are
is
really
probably
obsessed
the
with
best
his
way to
like
describe
human teeth. I think that's the impression I got.
Yeah, I don't know why though.
it. But I guess they got some Uncanny Valley kind of stuff going from him because
Yeah,
he's
probably,
too
yeah.
human-like. Too human-like.
But you know what? I think it's good because he has some really white teeth, so it's good for the kids. Like he brushes.
we know that he goes to the dentist. And at least he got braces and all that stuff too. So, but they're very straight. But yeah, people complained, and I mean, what were they thinking to begin with? But also, why do you care? But they got some movement on it. I mean, Yuji Naka, the original director of Sonic the Hedgehog and lead of Sonic Team, also agreed with people, which is not hard to believe. He just says whatever he wants, which is very unusual for a Japanese game developer. He pretty much is very outspoken. Which is unusual, and he was even that way as a young person, which was also very unusual.
But also the principal artist from Sonic the Hedgehog, Naoto Oshima, he also came out and said like, I've seen a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog drawings, but like this one makes me nervous.
Yeah, and this is coming from people from a Sega sanctioned product, so they're criticizing their own company as it's happening.
What I'm wondering. One thing I was wondering, like when I saw this whole thing blow up, we basically knew that Sonic looked weird, like since 2018 until we like finally saw him for real.
Yeah, because we just saw his legs in that one poster, but that looked
and
weird.
The silhouette and everything.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is like, how did it get that far? Like, I'm pretty sure the people who modeled him, like did the animation and everything, kind of knew that he looked weird, and like did no one like listen to the criticism of like the animators, or was everyone fine with that at first? Or I wonder what happened before we got to this point,
It reeks of somebody who doesn't love the property being in charge, and liking a certain style. I mean, even stuff that's deviated, people still had some affection for. I mean, the Sonic Boom, versions of these characters were quite a deviation. Not entirely deviated, but like it's different enough. You could tell right away that they're a different version.
Yeah.
And people still like those and have been more kind to them over time, especially. But I think this reeks of an executive decision.
It's also like sometimes it's a director decision. I remember when the first Transformers movie came out, there was a big controversy because they used a long-nosed truck for Optimus Prime when they're used to when he's a square cab
flat,
truck, right?
Yeah.
And it turned out there was a reason, like they needed to use the longest and biggest truck that they could reasonably like film, because it had to transform into Optimus Prime in real time in CGI. So like there was a directorial decision that it made sense, for them to modify the design of the car form of Optimus Prime. You never know. Maybe there's some sort of contrast reason or some directorial reason that Sonic needs to look kind of the way he does. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can probably modify his proportions and it'll look okay, but I don't know, maybe in motion it looked really weird. Like high speed motion characters are really hard to animate in a CGI form. I remember it took a long time for the Flash, to get his first for the Flash series to come out. They've been trying to do that for years, but it's hard to depict super speed in live action.
It just looks goofy, like somebody's running in place on a blue screen, which is what they're doing.
Right.
No, I'm totally with you. There might have even been things like zoom in on like things like shoes, and they wanted the knees to look right. You're very much right. Maybe he was doing activities that looked better with human features. Putting him on a bike, it would look weird if you put like Sonic's Dreamcast form on a bike. I know you shouldn't be putting him on a bike because he's Sonic.
It'd be really weird.
But that doesn't stop them. That doesn't stop Sega, first of all, for putting him in cars and all kinds of other vehicles.
The games are neat.
But what I'm trying to say is they might have had him doing an activity that just didn't look right with his thin legs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard to say, really.
It really depends on the script. But we digress. At this point, we want to bring up the unfortunate end of this. The people that worked on this have to go back to the drawing board and redo all their work under extreme pressure because they're not moving the release date of this movie.
They don't? They won't, I mean?
No, and they have to reanimate the principal character in this movie.
Well, at the very least, if they're gonna use the same like rigging and the same like basic animations, it's probably gonna be more about tweaking than like redoing everything, which is okay. It's not that bad, but still.
I mean, they're not working from scratch, but
yeah, exactly.
I'm sure they're gonna be a lot of long nights and forced.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. Not only that, but like rendering a movie like that takes forever, so they're gonna have to redo that again. It sucks.
Yeah, it's not fun for anybody, and I mean, people may have got their wish, but something tells me that people aren't gonna like it either way. Like, you know what I mean?
You're probably right about that too.
I mean, Detective Pikachu found its audience. I think people are going to be excited and bring their kids to that, and some adults are gonna go see it too. Like my girlfriend wants to see it, and she doesn't like Pokemon at all, but she thinks it looks really cute, and she likes Ryan Reynolds. So, I mean,
there you go.
But I mean, it's such an ill-conceived thing to begin with. I mean, what's the story in Sonic? I mean, there's story in Pokemon at least. There's lots of.
But I mean, the story in Pokemon has nothing to do with Detective Pikachu. Detective Pikachu comes so far from out of left field. I think that's part of why, like pretty obviously, why the Sonic trailer was so well received is because the Detective Pikachu thing is just so like acid trip unhinged in comparison to the regular like Pokemon milieu. That like, what are you supposed to think? How are you supposed to look at these two movies side by side?
They're not really adapting anything. I mean, there's a Detective Pikachu video game, but it has nothing to do with it other than it has a Pikachu with a fedora.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really it.
And the Detective Pikachu DS game is horrible. Like, this movie looks amazing.
Is it horrible? I bought it because it looked cute.
I mean the amiibo
well, at least it is cute.
Yeah, it's adorable, but it's not a very. I played through the whole game. It's not particularly compelling.
Okay, so you do have a good opinion of it.
Well,
Maybe
you know what
I'll
irks
just sell my copy there.
you know
But
what irks me about both movies though? Like, there's one thing that kind of irks me is they're kind of both going with the angle that like, wait, you can talk, you're a real thing. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, don't. It's kind of like a like you're introducing Sonic to the human world, and it's like, oh, a clash of like, we never saw a running hedgehog in the real life, but in the games he hangs out with humans all the time. So you're like, well, just you know.
well,
How can you
in
even
the
tell he's a hedgehog in the movie?
yeah,
Like,
I
unless
was
you...
actually gonna say that. He doesn't look like a real hedgehog in the slightest.
Well,
So
I'm
like,
just kind of disappointed they're going with the whole like, holy shit, this creature exists in our world, when it's like, well, yeah, in the games he's there, and everyone's just like, hey, it's Sonic.
well, in the original story, like in the U.S. version, like and the Canadian version, I imagine, like it was kind of like it seemed like a post-apocalyptic kind of thing where like Robotnik was or Eggman was the only human around, but actually in the Japanese story, it's supposed to take place on an island off the coast of like Easter Island or something.
Uh-huh.
So
I didn't know that.
so it take like the Sonic world actually takes place on regular Earth, and that's why there are humans in Dreamcast that they don't explain. The Dreamcast Sonic Adventure games, they don't explain those humans and why they're there and why they showed up like out of nowhere. Because in Japan they were always kind of in the periphery.
Implied. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But we're in the U.S. We're like
What
he's
the
the
hell?
only human we see on screen. Yeah, it's weird.
And he's also, like, looked progressively less human as the
Yeah.
series has progressed.
Sure, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, I think it sucks all around, and they should just throw
until
it
the
out.
movie. Now he looks like Jim Carrey. It's the most human he's looked in the entire series of Sonic the Hedgehog.
if you can call him that. So yeah, we're gonna move on to our next anti-capitalist topic.
Hooray!
I kid. We're not all about that, but some stuff
What
has
are
to
you
be
implying?
said. Just in
What was
case
that?
you wanted to see where we leaned. So the easy what is this called?
Easy anti-cheat.
Easy anti-cheat is now not supporting Linux, and so this is a big deal, and I'll go over why. It's kind of like a domino effect kind of thing. So Easy Anti-Cheat is the premier program that like will basically kick out anybody who is modding during a multiplayer match. Anybody who's using cheat engine, anything like that. Anybody who is using glitches, that kind of thing. And Epic bought it. And Valve for a long time has been a large proponent of open platforms. So much so that they champion things like Linux, and their own operating system was something that they tried. And they love the idea of an open platform, even if it's something that they have to put a little bit of money into in order to support. They've always been very happy to support like all virtual reality headsets as well, even though they have their own. It's something that they've been consistent with. Now, so they've been supporting Linux, which means that Epic basically bought this in order to hassle Valve on their games, and also to not support their Linux endeavors. What I think will probably happen as a result of this is maybe another anti-cheat service may be used, but it's definitely in the short term shots fired kind of thing, and kind of a low blow, but I like competition, so I think that's good, but also taking a shot at an open platform is like punching down as well. So I mean, Linux is for hobbyists to begin with. So the people that are doing it that are using it with the effort put into it, and to make it harder for them to enjoy it on top of the hassle of already using it is pretty crummy. I wish they would come out with a better way to do it. And I think OldManStompy, you had some opinions about Epic CEO and his
I have
behavior
opinions
on
on things. I do declare.
I want to hear you. I want you to be able to voice your opinion, because you had some very good points when what I read of what you said today.
What makes me so frustrated about this is that like Epic has really gone all in on this like false corporate narrative that they want to be the one, that Valve is the bad guy, and so they have this selling point that they're the main. Like the main the most exciting part of the Epic Game Store is that they give more of the sales money to developers, right? That's been the big like leading thing that we keep hearing about. Plus, they're making overtures to consumers, right, by licensing a few games every week to give away for free. So you have a reason to prefer their store, and sign up and make an Epic Games account if you're not already playing Fortnite. Right. Oh, and I do just want to mention very quickly, the first article that I Googled about this labels them as Epic Games, the makers of Fortnite and Jazz Jackrabbit 2. Like, how do you decide how do you decide what's the second game you're going to put in Epic
not
Games
the Unreal
portfolio?
Engine. Not
Jazz
the Unreal
Jackrabbit
Engine, which
2.
is a ubiquitous engine that, like, tons of games use.
I'm sure there's some like tongue in cheek in this choice. It's just like really struck me that that's a good way to
Konami, the gym company,
Nintendo, the makers of Super Mario Brothers and Hanafuda cards,
and Love Hotels.
Yes, these things all happened.
Taxis too, right? If I remember, didn't Nintendo have taxis?
I don't know, but they had these things that they put in the bowling alleys that were like shooting galleries in bowling alleys. It was pretty interesting. It was like a light gun thing that you played at a bowling alley, like on like the wall.
Okay, that sounds like something that Nintendo would do.
Yeah, but that was like back in the 70s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, back to the main point. The idea
strong opinions. I forgot.
I was really tickled by Jazz Jackrabbit 2. I just had to get that in there. Now we can go back to the sky is falling. So the reason this is so frustrating to me is, for the most part, it's like a pretty standard corporate power move, but it frustrates me that they're framing it as some kind of they're sticking it to the man. It's like, you're not sticking it to anybody, you're sticking it to Linux users who just want to play online games without having to worry about adding another patch to the list of stuff that they already have to add to get games running on their machines. That Valve helped them with. They're just happy
to have something that works. They're just happy to have content.
So to be clear, the problem is not Linux itself. Like, the Linux kernel is ubiquitous. Android runs the Linux kernel, and Fortnite runs on Android, so they're not getting rid of Android support, Linux support completely. They're specifically getting rid of Linux distributions that include a lot of open source software. What Vice refers to as hobbyist stuff, like people's personal laptops on which they run Linux as a primary OS, along with some additional distribution of libraries, which tends to make for kind of a moving target, because there's there's countless Linux distributions. There's a handful of core ones. There's Ubuntu, Red Hat, FreeBSM, CentOS. There's a bunch of them that you're likely to have on your home computer, if you're a Linux customer. And Valve has a service called Proton, which is a runtime environment that more or less mimics what it's like running on a Linux machine, a Windows machine on Linux, that allows Steam to launch and run most games that are available on the service. So what Epic is doing is saying that you're not allowed to use this, or rather, they're ceasing support for this commonly used service that will stop a lot of Steam Linux customers from playing their online games. It doesn't really seem to have any additional benefit aside from it, absolves Epic from having to worry about supporting Linux, and its manifold distributions, even the common ones like Ubuntu, that represent the majority of the installed Linux user base. I guess it's not profitable to do it. But they're trying to frame it as though they have the moral high ground because Valve is the bad guy and we're sticking it to them. It's like, no, you are the bad guy. Valve is the medium guy,
Being bad to bad doesn't make you good anyway. So.
Yeah. So I guess that's why this is so frustrating to me. We might have some developers. I don't know who we have in our audience who has experience with this topic. I personally, I don't use Linux as my primary machine, but I use it heavily at work. I think we're not too far from a point where those of us who have the opportunity to do so won't necessarily even buy a tower anymore. I think we're not too far off from like renting container space from Amazon, the processor space and RAM, and just buying a monitor and like a streaming setup and gaming on that or doing our work on that. A lot of.
Geez, my work already does that.
Yeah.
We have virtual desktop stations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So Amazon is already one of the like primary providers of computing services to like a large variety of industries. If you can rent a Dropbox from them now. You can rent if you want to run a small web server. It's one of the cheapest ways to go do it. So I don't think that's too far off. So if maybe 5 to 10 years at most before most households with a high-speed internet connection have this as an option, and it is preferable. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm not happy about this, but not because I play any of the games, just because of what it means. We've talked about this several times on the podcast about how Epic coming in doesn't like very aggressively. Doesn't necessarily disrupt the industry. It tends to sort of balkanize things where these like competing services start working on these power moves to sort of stick it to each other, and you wind up, and really it's the customers that get hurt. They're leveraging this anti-cheating software to cut off a small portion of the gaming population to no obvious benefit to the rest of us, aside from. So
these guys are the ones stuck in the crossfire, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I'll reiterate that. I have an MBA in finance. Like, I am a fan of the capitalist system. However, I don't like it when it's abused, and when the common people get abused in situations like this. There need to be protections put in place so that abuse doesn't happen. And in this instance, Valve was actually self-protecting customers and customer interests because it's something that their CEO believes in. They're not beholden to shareholders because they're not a public company. I believe Epic is. Is that correct?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I really don't know, honestly.
Either way, this is something that they believe in and have stuck to. They are very open about a lot of things, and that's one of their strengths. I mean, there are other things you can say about them that they don't communicate well, and that they have a flood of junk on their store. But that's at the behest of their stance. The junk on their store is as a result of their beliefs, that they should just let things on, and let them be available. I mean,
just to pop in for a second. So Valve is not publicly traded. Epic is not publicly traded, but Tencent is, and they own 40% of Epic.
Okay. And that's a Chinese company, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I think this is them just trying to take down a juggernaut, not really being on the side of customers, because if they were, they would try to find a way to benefit people on those Linux servers as well, and Linux users as well. I think. I mean, just from the comments on Twitter by the CEO of Epic, I am not on their side at all. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, something to the effect of, being a Linux user this day and age is like moving to Canada, which is insulting to Canadians.
Well, now I want to punch him in the face because I'm Canadian.
Right here. Exactly. When you don't agree with American politics. And I honestly think that's a shitty thing, first of all, to say. And
yeah, fuck him. What the fuck is that?
Yeah. That's a shitty thing to say. It's insulting to a lot of different things.
And it's for one, it's a lie. Like I said, he's trying to frame himself as a freedom fighter against the ubiquity of Valve, but really he just wants everybody to be at his store.
Yeah, and also he's leaving a country because of a political climate is one of the ways
perfectly
of getting
fucking
away
valid,
from it.
yeah. Jesus Christ.
My grandparents did that. I mean, that's why I'm here.
And it's also like most people who actually suffer under an oppressive government don't have the like wherewithal to leave the country. Otherwise, they probably would. Like as you said.
Yeah.
They don't have the resources. They don't have a way of officially getting out of the country. A way of emigrating legally. But we. That's another topic. But I'm
yeah,
not
pretty.
But oh god.
So do we have
These
some
topics are
video
pretty
game
hard,
stuff? I swear.
I'm sorry, guys. I really am.
It's fine. It's fine.
So Xbox One adds Ninja Gaiden 3: Razor's Edge and Trials Evolution to their backwards compatibility lists.
Remind me what Trials. Wait. Oh yeah, Trials is the bike game, right?
Yes.
Man,
so
I
it's a
love
very
that.
popular game that kind of spawned that style of video game. It's really like an arcade style stunt driven obstacle course kind of game.
Yeah, that's
and
a really nice way of putting it.
There are a lot of those games because of the Trials games now. There's a ton of types of games like that, and it's kind of built off of things like QWOP and things like that. But it's a game that you're supposed to be able to win at if you're good.
Yeah.
But it does have a masochism aspect to it, and sadism aspect to it. There's just some challenges that are very, very, very difficult, but they're a lot of fun, and it's very addictive. And it's really good in short bursts. It was one of the most popular Xbox Live Arcade games. Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge is not the original Ninja Gaiden 3, but the much better remake of Ninja Gaiden 3 after a lot of people complained about the original version of it. It's considered the weakest out of the trilogy, but still much improved over its original version. It's also the first mainline series entry without Itagaki, who is a piece of shit.
Oh boy. All right.
There's a lot of problems with him.
So, I want to say
There's
that
a lot of problems.
I
go
want to
ahead.
say that
Sorry.
Trials Evolution has one of the coolest ARGs I've ever seen associated with it. I don't know if you guys ever heard about this, but like the game had a bunch of
ARG!
hidden messages in it that eventually, when decoded, led to like 4 keys.
I thought you meant Charlie Brown, missing the football when Lucy takes it away.
I meant the alternate reality games. You know what I meant. Don't be frustrating.
Oh.
as opposed to usual.
Well, I'll just sign up now. All right, I'm back.
No, okay, it's fine.
That was awkward.
Anyway, they had a really cool ARG, and we'll never know the outcome of it because apparently it's some like meditation on the meaning of time, and the final answer to it won't be revealed until like some guy opens a safe deposit box in like 196 years from now. So I urge people
holy
to read
shit.
about it. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, one of my favorite ARGs was Binding of Isaacs. That was really good.
Oh yeah, the one for the keeper, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. That was really fun to read about.
Mm-hmm.
Also the Glitter Mitten Grove / Frog Fractions 3 ARG was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. What was the first game to do that? Was it Halo 2 to really popularize that kind of thing?
Is Halo 2 the I Love Bees thing?
Yes.
Because
yes.
I remember that being a thing. I mean, like, I want to say, I don't want to say ARGs per se, but I remember reading that, like, treasure hunt books were really big in the 80s, where you would, like, buy a book, and you'd have to read through it, and if you solved all the clues, you could find, like, a real treasure hidden somewhere in the world. You know, like...
I think they did that with a game on Atari, right?
Oh, yeah, there was
Quest.
Sword Quest. Yeah, so...
Yeah, there we go.
That never finished, though. The final pieces are, like, probably sitting in some old executive's, like, storeroom or something, or on their mantelpiece.
Or melted down.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were gold. Apparently they made the final comic book to go along with it recently, like within the last 2 years or
Wow.
which is kind of cool. Just to do it.
This is the era of like dredging things that we all forgot existed. Back from the dead.
Let's all dig up our mediocre shit fests from 30 years ago and
more Shaq Fu, yeah.
We did do that. It probably was worth staying dead.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's see here. We also have a Ruby interpreter was snuck onto Switch, which is very interesting. So this was put into a game. I forget what the game was called. Ruby, I think even. Let me see here.
What's a Ruby interpreter?
Oh no, it's called a Dark Room is the name of it. So Ruby is, I think, a Linux interpreter, or Unix or something of that ilk.
Ruby is a programming language.
A programming language, okay. Mm-hmm. But it allows you to basically crack the Switch.
Okay.
He snuck the game on there, and it had a full-blown Ruby interpreter, which will allow things like USB keyboards to be used, like the whole bit. As long as you program it, you could do it. And then he bragged about it on Twitter, and of course, got shit canned by Nintendo right away. Probably banned for life. They won't answer his emails or answer a phone call ever from him ever again. But the game obviously was promptly taken off of the eShop. But it's interesting that he was able to get past verification.
So this is a pretty big deal in general. Like, Ruby's a really common language. A lot of web apps are built in Ruby. Twitter is built in Ruby.
I think even RPG Maker is made in Ruby.
Oh, is it?
Let's see. I think so.
Airbnb, GitHub, Shopify, Hulu. Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Rooster Teeth.
Oh, do they?
That was a joke.
Okay, I get it.
I don't, but it's okay.
They make a show called Ruby.
No, I get it. Okay.
Anyway. I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I'm sorry, guys.
You're right. You're on a webcam. We can see you. You're not sorry.
I'm not. But please, OldManStompy, please talk more about Ruby.
No, that was it. That was all I had to say. Please continue.
Oh boy. So this is a good time to ask for money from everybody.
Support us, please.
No. You had some Magic the Gathering type stuff to go over, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit. I wanted to talk about this. It's not necessarily good stuff. It's kind of absurd. Maybe since the podcast has been a little bit negative, I'll just kind of skim through it so we can laugh at it.
All right.
So Magic has been experimenting with these kind of like ultra premium products for a really long time. So they have a type of card called a Masterpiece. It's something they debuted a couple of years ago, and they seeded them randomly into packs of the new set they just released. Something like one in every 500 packs would have this super foil card that hadn't been in standard in 8 or 9 years, and the price of these cards just skyrocketed. It sold packs like crazy because everybody wanted to buy these, wanted to have a chance of opening up one of these hyper rare cards. And for some reason they also, if you're playing a sealed deck tournament, you could use them in your sealed deck if you open them, which seemed really stupid because some of these cards were ancient and just disgustingly overpowered. So if you were playing even at a professional level, a sealed tournament, you had to worry about whether or not your opponent just randomly got incredibly lucky and had these broken cards in their deck that you would have no way to know if they you would never be able to plan against it because they were so rare, but it would just crush you if they drew them, right?
Oh, okay.
So they've kind of struggled with how to They clearly want to have these cards as part of their consumer experience because they get the fan base very excited, but they haven't really decided how they want to distribute them. What the avenue is to get them. So they've been trying a bunch of different things, and the most recent one is what they call Mythic Editions. So if you've been listening to some of the past segments I've been doing on Magic the Gathering, everything is Mythic. Everything is Mythic Championship, Mythic Invitational, Mythic Edition. It's their big brand, like their top level rarity. So they released a set. It was like a box with like 8 special packs in it, and every pack had one of a set of these masterpiece cards. In this case, they were the Planeswalkers, who were the faces of the set. And they're beautiful. They're full art. By full art, I mean they don't even have borders. Like this was something that they've been working really hard on trying to implement. So the borders on Magic cards exist because there's a little bit of give, when they cut and collate the cards, so that you don't have to worry about cutting it perfectly. But they've advanced printing technology to the point where they don't really need the border anymore. They can just cut it perfect art all the way to the edge. It's probably more expensive than the regular cards, but they do it for these special cases. And they distributed it on the Hasbro eBay store. You'd think that they wouldn't use eBay to sell something as important as like their most premium level product, and it went about as well as you'd expect.
Yeah, not only that, but like that it would also make you suspicious of it, right? Because eBay,
that's true.
eBay for collectibles like this kind of thing is automatically suspect, right?
Well, I mean, it's not like they sold it from like an eBay seller. It was Hasbro. They're a verified store.
Okay.
So you're buying it directly
but
from Hasbro.
But still, why not something like that's like a well-trusted thing like Amazon or something like that,
What seems to have happened is they tried to sell it on the Hasbro website directly, but the Hasbro
Which would
website...
make sense.
Yeah, but the Hasbro website doesn't have a middleman for distributing outside of America.
Oh, okay.
So that's why they went to eBay. You'd think that they would just figure out how to sell things to Europe, to Asia, to to anywhere else.
That would be the thing that you would want to do for the future, maybe.
Like they obviously can sell Magic cards to like all these other countries, right? Because they print Magic cards in like 10 different languages and sell them all over the world. So I don't know why this is so hard. What happened is exactly what you'd expect. They only had, I think, 12,000 copies. They were sold out by 12:02, but you'd never know that, they went on sale at 12 o'clock. They sold out by 12:02, but you'd never know that was the case because the website and PayPal crashed, which meant that nobody knew for sure if their orders went through. A few thousand went back up around 12:30, so probably about 20,000 orders were placed for 12,000 Mythic editions. So you can imagine that.
And how many scalpers do you think got a hold of this? Because I'm sure they didn't put any limit on an IP address.
The limit was 2 per customer.
Okay.
But that didn't stop people who run eBay bots, because everybody runs an eBay bot, for sniping purposes, from just sitting.
Because everybody's running an eBay bot.
That was almost certainly what crashed the website in the first place. So you can imagine that the number of people that tried to buy a Mythic Edition was substantially more than 20,000, and the number of people who think they might want to buy a Mythic Edition but couldn't scrounge up the like $240 or whatever it was, depending upon your country, or just weren't available, or free at 12 o'clock on that particular day, or just felt extremely discouraged by the method of sale, were also extremely unhappy by their just absolute inability to purchase this product. And you can imagine that majority of them just wind up back on eBay by less reputable sellers for like $600 or more, because that's what happened the last 2 years.
And you can flip it right to eBay. It's perfect.
Yeah, so like the listings for reselling of this item went up like at 12:03
immediately. Yeah.
So after somebody had the order confirmation, a large number of people already started putting these things up, and a lot of them didn't get it. Not that they care, because they're
unscrupulous to begin with.
Like this is just normal business. As long as the rest of your collectible like website does well, you can absorb a couple of negative reviews from canceled sales. I just I've been thinking about this a lot, because a lot of game companies have become a little bit more conscious of I forget exactly what people call it, but something like the cost of missed opportunity, and you see it a lot in mobile games too. Where,
opportunity cost.
Yeah, well, it's not opportunity cost per se. It's well, I guess you could say it is, but it's sort of like tied into this like very specific. It's about being a continuing fan of something, and sort of measuring the cost of participating continuously versus being able to take a break, and how that takes a mental toll on you. When you play these, like if I play Pokemon Go, every week there's a new event that requires me to play. And if I don't play for a week, I feel like I miss something that everybody else has because it's really cool. And now I have to like play and get the next cool thing. But now I'm discouraged because everybody's playing with their new toys, and I have to go and play with stuff that's now old. So Magic, it felt like they were becoming conscious of this because they used to issue, whenever you went to pre-releases or major events, they used to give you like really cool promo cards. And they found that it wasn't worth it because players who couldn't attend the pre-release just felt really discouraged because these cards were like they were top level rarity. They were usually tournament staples. And they felt like they were falling behind just from not being able to attend the pre-release because they didn't get this like highly desirable card.
I tend to feel that way about things like Monster Hunter. If I don't start it right away with everybody else,
exactly. This is
I don't want to play it at all because like I don't have somebody to play with. I don't have anybody to identify with even. So like somebody like Mr. Ryu who like that's his second job is playing Monster Hunter. I feel like I could never play as much as him, so I feel like I don't want to play it even to begin with, because of stuff like that. So I could totally see where that's coming
from. It's kind of the only reason that we stay sort of entrenched in Final Fantasy XIV is that the game is really good at keeping the content curve kind of flat, and that if you get back into the game at a certain point, it's actually pretty easy that as long as you're just doing like whatever the most recent thing is, the gear that you get will always be like an appropriate level and probably better than anything that you would have gotten if you'd been playing before. But MMOs have that feature because you expect like continuous power creep as you continue to level up. And they do a little bit of limited time events, but usually you can buy whatever they give away in the cash shop. You can't always do that in mobile games. You certainly can't do it in Monster Hunter. I think that the Monster Hunter fan base would have a revolt if it became pay to win anyway, or even like pay for cosmetics.
Sure.
Because like that's all there is to the game.
yeah, that's what the game is. That's why you play it.
Right.
Is for the cosmetics, to make your character look cool while you're trying to get more cosmetics.
Or to make your character look stupid because it's the optimal gear for.
I'm gonna have to show you a picture after this.
Okay, you're welcome to.
All right. Any more Magic the Gathering stuff?
That's all I got for this week.
Okay.
I don't play the game, so I don't have anything either.
Okay. Well, we got plenty. The Devil May Cry is the original is coming to Switch. I just wanted to mention it real quickly. I mean, I played this game is available on everything to begin with, so I'm not super excited, but it's cool.
Well, so there's one thing that people are pointing to, which is that the series director said that he doesn't want Dante in Smash Brothers until the series is on the Switch.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Well, it would be cool to have Dante fight Bayonetta. That would be pretty neat. Right?
Yes.
So that would be really cool. I'm surprised they're not bringing the whole trilogy of the original games. That's a little odd. But they did just bring the original Onimusha without the rest of those.
Maybe they're just spacing it out.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, maybe you're onto something there. It's probably very cheap and easy for them to do this because PC port of Devil May Cry has existed for a long time.
Yeah.
So it should be easy for them to port it to an NVIDIA-based game system here. And speaking of Switch stuff, Switch Online is adding 3 games that nobody asked for.
Okay.
They're adding the NES version of Donkey Kong Jr. when the arcade version of Donkey Kong Jr. exists on this eShop already, which is way better in every single way, and you shouldn't play that version.
Okay.
Clue Clue Land, which nobody asked for. And Versus Excite Bike, which is good.
Well, at least one of them's good.
But it's sold already on the eShop individually.
Oh, okay.
So that there's one good game or one good version of a good game here, and it's already available. This is my big problem with Switch Online and Nintendo's strategy when it comes to this. Their online coffers. They wallow in their like 1985 and 1986 crap, like baseball and volleyball and tennis. Like they're bad games from that era. Not counting ice hockey because that's the only good one. And Urban Champion. And they'll re-release these a million times because their thought is always, well, we got to start with our old games, or else we can't lead up to our good games. But what if you never get to your good games?
Good point.
That is a failed strategy. Like, for instance, Hamster didn't wait until all of the Fatal Fury games were released. They released Mark of Wolves right away on the Switch. They did not wait until all of them had been released, because there are 7 of them before this. There's 6. There are 6 Fatal Fury games. Like, I can understand, like, wanting to release the King of Fighters games in order, but to some degree, just release them all and people download their favorites. That's what they should be doing.
But what if I want to play Urban Champion?
You don't. And you should play the superior 3D version on 3DS.
That's not saying much, I'm sure.
Well, they also have Versus Urban Champion available on its own as well.
Great.
If you should want that.
Both of us can be miserable.
It's the only way. But what I want to say here is, like, if Netflix did this kind of thing, nobody would want to be on it. And as a result, people don't want to be on Switch Online except for the online features. They don't want it for this library because it's not full-featured enough. What they should do is they should put as much content as they can with maybe a couple incremental updates over time, because I would join that to have a gigantic library that's already available. And so would a lot of other people. They'd be like, okay, I want to play Kirby's Adventure, which is a late release, and it's one of the best games on the NES.
So what do you think is the logic to not doing it then?
Because they want to build up to it. But
like you said...
In the meantime, they may never get to it.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is how... What Vice is suggesting is how, like, literally every other online service works. You don't bury the lead. They're all, like, tremendously front-loaded. You know, I guess maybe at best they want the sales not to tail off too badly, but they'll never get as high as they should be to begin with if the service doesn't have any compelling features.
Yeah, well, you're playing very simplistic NES games that, even back when they came out, didn't hold people's attention for very long. They needed to come up with, the special chips on these systems to be regular features on these games. You know, you want to play the really great games. You know, Mario 3, Mario 2, Mario 1 obviously, but you want to play the really, really good stuff. And most of those were 89 to 93. And the first 2-3 years had some really great games. You have the original Super Mario Brothers. You have Zelda, but then they trail off. There's a lot of other stuff that they had to release, with a system in order to get people's attention that weren't that great. Even back then,
you can probably on any given like month or like any given Steam sale buy a package of like 5 to 10 games for $10 or less, and like they can be pixel art games, and probably they will all be better than like the vast majority of the NES and SNES game catalog. 95 to 99%. So like there's no compelling reason except for like severe nostalgia at this point, to bother with the Switch Online for $20 a year.
What they should be doing is releasing all of their games at once, and then what they should do is over time they should make like a publisher deal. Like, oh man, we just acquired all the Capcom games, or the majority of them, and all of a sudden you have Nintendo games and a whole bunch of Capcom games now, and then that's indefinite for as much as the service is running, and then they have a Konami event, where they release all the Konami games. This is the way you should do it, not by year, like. Because otherwise, inevitably, every system that they release is going to start with Urban Champion, and every single one of their systems is going to have Urban Champion on it, and it has! And they've... not every system that they have released old games on has had Kirby's Adventure on it. Am I wrong here?
No, we agree with you. We're just silently agreeing.
I can't really argue with you.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, like, let's think about the NES Classic, right? that had like Mega Man 2 and Mario 3 and Final Fantasy and Metroid and Ninja Gaiden and
it should have every one of those games on it.
And Kid Icarus, every one of them. And Gradius, and I don't think it had fucking Urban Champion. It had Kirby's Adventure. Yeah, that's the last one. It did have Kirby's Adventure. See, that's how you make a compelling product.
Yeah,
put every one of those games on this so you don't have to buy an NES Classic, so you don't have a system that competes with your flagship.
Oh, it had Ice Climber, so I guess they can't all be winners. But...
I'm guessing you don't like that game, right?
Balloon Fight is good. I'm not going to rag on Balloon Fight. Balloon Fight's great.
I played Ice Climber back in like 1988.
Back in the day, yeah. And no, it was garbage back then. And you're right to say so. The original Kid Icarus is not very good, but fondly remembered.
Oh, it sucks though.
It's not good. If you're going to play it, play the 3DS remake, but it's not that much better.
But I mean, that's what's so frustrating is that when you look at the NES Classic library, they're clearly capable of understanding like what library of games people really want to play, and they just don't put them on any of their services.
I don't know,
man. It's ridiculous. It should start with these 30 games that were on the NES Classic. It should start with them.
Like imagine if like the Xbox One came out and you just couldn't play Halo on it for 5 years.
You would never buy it. Or how about this? They released the Master Chief Collection, but they did it with one Halo at a time and released them 1 year at a time.
Mm-hmm. Starting with Halo 2.
Starting with the worst Halo.
Just to be dicks.
And the multiplayer doesn't work until all of them are out. Keep in mind that these games are already available on the previous system, but you need to wait for them to be released piecemeal on the new one. Fuck off.
So this is like, imagine if the only games you could play on like Xbox Live were like Sonic 2006 streaming.
Oh goodness.
And that was it.
Oh goodness. That'd be terrible.
Nintendo, I want to give you my money. You just need to stop being stupid.
The worst part is I already did. Like, I already bought the Nintendo Online service. And I saw your
so
headline.
You're the problem.
I saw your headline that says, like, Switch Online. I was excited, but not even until the end of the headline when I read what the games were. I couldn't
You could play Clue Clue Land, where you could play as a crab that collects rupees.
I might do it. Not...
It's the predecessor to Donkey Kong Jungle Fever, is it? Or...
Wow.
What is that called?
Oh yeah, Jungle Beat.
King of Swing. King of Swing.
Okay.
King of Swing.
I will say that mostly I did it because I wanted to get on the family plan. I wanted to give it to my my parents and my sister.
And you want to play Smash online, I'm sure, every once in a while.
I don't play games with other people.
Okay. Yeah.
Well then,
you're only here to give me a talking to every once in a while.
And
knock my ego back where it should be.
Sorry, that got me.
You're not here because you enjoy it. This is a labor of love for you.
It's just labor, period.
Yeah.
So speaking of shit on the Switch, Blades of Time, an OldManStompy favorite,
hooray!
Okay,
is coming to the Switch.
So there's a bit of a backstory here. This is almost like my 4 Heroes of Light. That like I had read an article about this game on like Kotaku or something about how Konami was releasing a game, but nobody knew what it was until it was already on store shelves. And there was a reason for that. It was because it was like completely unremarkable. I don't even want to say bad, just like boring, and unexciting.
Oh boy.
So it's there was a game called X-Blades, right? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, that's the first one. Yes.
Yeah, and so Blades of Time is like their second try at making it. And since you've probably never heard of either of those games, you can tell that neither of them were successful. But I made a point
Russian
about this,
vaporware.
And like
vaporware, but
I ordered the game because I was just so weirded out by it, and I like talked to Vice on the phone, and he also went out and bought it at the store because he was kind of curious about it, and obviously also neither of us, played the game.
I returned it right away, by the way.
Oh, good for you. I still have my copy. I might finish it someday.
So this is also part of our history. OldManStompy, I just posted a fan review of Blades of Time into the show notes. Would you care to read it to the audience? This is something I brought to your attention. This is from Itchy Pandas. Metacritic review of Blades of Time, which is my favorite thing about Blades of Time.
Okay, so
here
we go. It's a story time. So, I purchased this game from mythical land of Amazon. It arrived at my door in a legendary short amount of time. It was as if a fairy came along and left a gift at my doorway. An ominous brown truck drove away as I picked it up. They must be the agents of Konami. They are always watching. Only watching. As I picked up this package, I felt its power teeming through the beige bubble wrap envelope. I was hesitant to open the package and release its power. I felt like a precocious Pandora opening the jar for the first time. I stared at the package for hours until finally I summoned all the willpower I had to pry the gem open. Upon opening, the banshees screamed and the envelope vibrated. It was too late. I could not reseal the package. It was unleashed unto the world. I looked inside, and the damned left only a curious box behind. I cautiously picked up the box and read its caution, Blades of Time. Since the evil was bound, I tore through the invisible cloak that sheathed the box. A sticker held the box closed tightly. Was this a warning to turn back? I ignored the warning because the sticker hinted that it had passed some wizardry called quality assurance.
Oh boy.
I broke the seal. Inside was a disc and a booklet of secrets. It sounds like it was written by a Lazarul.
It does.
I took the disc.
Fucker in the woods.
I took the disc to my hungry Xbox 360 machination. It had been weeks since it has been fed. I initially fed it the secret book, but it spit it out. I fed it the disc, and it was sated. The television came to life. I ran in fear because it began quarreling with me. It asked me for a save device. It was the devil's trick. I knew it at once. After regaining my composure, I punched a bunch of buttons and started this game. I will outmaneuver the devil and place the evil back in the package. It wasn't what the world wanted, but it's what the world needed. An enchanting nubile woman appeared. I was apprehensive because this obviously Caucasian woman was named Ayumi. Aha! Another of the devil's tricks. I will not be deterred. The devil introduced me to a number of his powers and told me to use them. I will not be fooled, devil. I strictly used the Japasian's gun and hid behind pillars. When the devil sent his lieutenants after me, I quickly dispatched him. Every few minutes, his captains would appear. They were slightly more difficult than the lieutenants. Finally, the devil and I faced off. I know what you're saying, Mr. Panda. If you're writing this, you must have won. I tell you this, young virgin, no one won.
The fuck?
The devil changed me, and I changed the devil. Our game was over. Please do not tell anyone of this devil's incarnation. The devil was abated this fine weekend, but those damnable brown trucks are watching. They are waiting to unleash the devil upon each and every one of you. 6 out of 10. God has sent me a message and has told me that you may fight this devil from something he called the bargain bin. This covenant is between you and God. You may obey or you may ignore. Each soul is his own.
Oh boy. Oh.
I feel like this could be a segment that we do every week, but nothing could possibly top this review. So.
No, I don't think it could.
See, here's the thing. This is my favorite fan review that I've ever read, and this is the only one he ever wrote. So well,
it's a masterpiece.
Even look at him for more content.
I don't think he could top that anyway, so, you know.
We should
he sprouted out fully formed. He didn't even have, like, a phase where he was, trying to get his Lazruliness down. He just started this way.
I mean, for all you know, he was writing Amazon reviews under a pseudonym for a while.
Maybe.
Like Lazarul. But, yeah. Don't buy this game.
Basically.
So the funniest part to me is that the headline on Destructoid calls it a contentious action game, and contentious is a strong adjective to use for a game that has absolutely nothing remarkable about it whatsoever.
I would say precipitous is probably
I feel
better.
like the zeitgeist has concluded that this game is like universally regarded as mediocre, with at best a 1% margin of error.
Yeah, it's the kind of mediocre that it's so far into the mediocre category that it's probably the worst place it could be. It's so far away from amazing and laughably bad that nobody will touch it. It's far away from any extreme in which it would be noticed. So
oh my god! So it's stuck in the most middle ground place possible, limbo.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But
you know that like we will often talk about how we partake in really bad cinema, really bad games
Sure.
because they're funny. or entertaining in some way, the worst thing that you can do is be boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna watch some movie where somebody just like a mediocre drama movie that's very plotting and has too much dialogue. I'm not gonna watch that. I mean, that to me is the worst thing ever. That's way worse than something Neil Breen ever made. You know?
No, I think Neil Breen is pretty bad.
Yeah, but I enjoy watching Neil Breen. See there's where that lies. So we unfortunately have other things that we could have touched on, but we had some heavy topics on with Blades of Time here and all. So we should probably just wrap it up for the rest of the week. That was very important. We needed to read that. It was important to make it.
Now I understand what the main idea of having this on the podcast was. I was completely confused reading it in the show notes, but I'm glad that had an emotional payoff for me.
And I didn't want to lead you on as to why I had it in there too. I only just posted that into the shared file.
I thought it was
crafty.
just because I told you about this game and it was terrible.
Well, yes, that was the main reason. But that was the shell reason, right?
I see.
That was my way of getting you there.
The shell contained a gooey Amazon review, just dripping with possibility.
Delicious.
So that is the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness podcast, where we explore the inanity of pop culture, and hopefully are less political. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Battle.net, and Switch.
And you can find me as OldManStompy on most major gaming and social media networks, although I warn you, I am always political.
Uh-oh.
Comes with your cantankerous nature.
Yes. When I was a young man Stompy, I was only occasionally political.
You were never a young man, Stompy.
You got me.
I am correct. Nobody's ever called you that. And how about you, Lou?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can find me on Twitter as Lou Fakafon. That's LOUPFAKAFON. Jeez, that's really hard to say. You can find me on YouTube as Fakafon, and I have my webcomic, Kadrula.com, and it's also available on Webtoon now. If you go on Webtoon, type Kadrula-chan, you'll find my comic.
It's very, very cute, and you put a lot of effort into it. I really love your webcomic. I love reading it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Absolutely. And please help him in joining the resistance against Epic Games. On behalf of all Canadians everywhere.
It's okay. I'm too poor to afford games anyway, so it's fine.
Fortnite is free to play.
Shit! Don't say shit like that.
Free? I can't afford that.
Do not be the devil, please.
No, we found the devil's game.
the devil is an Ayumi. In the form of Ayumi. So, yes, we will catch everybody for another episode of Corrective Consciousness, where we'll talk a little bit about life sims and exploration-based games. We'll catch you then, everybody.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Cheers.